all, welcome to the TAS Morning Show. Now, how many of y'all know what crowdfunding is? Crowdfunding is a trending term in Oman, and to discuss this and more about crowdfunding, we have with us here today Ms. Riza Ismail, who is the COO and Compliance Director of EthisX Group. Now, EthisX, as we know, is a fintech firm that focuses on crowdfunding, and they recently got their license to be the first crowdfunding provider in Muscat. So please welcome Ms. Riza. Ms. Riza, thank you for being here at the TAS Morning Show.
Thank you for having me.
So Ms. Riza, crowdfunding is a relatively new thing in Oman. Can you tell us what it is and how it works?
Yes, it is true that crowdfunding is a new concept in Oman, and a lot of education and awareness need to be spread throughout the Oman market. So essentially, crowdfunding refers to funding of a specific project, company, or campaign where small amounts of money are pulled from a large pool of investors. And these investors can come from individuals, companies, or institutions. So crowdfunding has several categories to it. Under the Capital Market Authority regulations, crowdfunding is divided into 4 categories. Equity crowdfunding, where investors will invest in a company in return for shares. Okay. P2P or peer-to-peer financing, where investors provide financing to companies for their projects in return for a certain rate of return to investors, donation crowdfunding, and reward crowdfunding. So for EthisX, we are allowed to do equity crowdfunding and also P2P crowdfunding initiatives.
Okay. And what would you say is the approximate timeline for, a crowdfunding campaign?
For EthisX, because we are only allowed to do ECF and P2P crowdfunding, the timeline differs between these 2 initiatives. So for equity crowdfunding, it's a longer process, and it takes between probably 3 months up until 6 months from the initial application throughout the process of due diligence, pre-live campaign, live campaign, and also post-campaign period until completion of the crowdfunding initiative. For P2P, it's a slightly quicker process because it focuses on projects rather than company per se. So it can take between 1 month up to 3 months for the process to complete.
Now, you're the first licensed crowdfunding platform in Oman. How would you say the response has been from the public?
Since we received our license in March of this year, we began receiving applications from companies in Oman, and response have been very, very good. And our team has started to do or carry out due diligence on some of the applications. But we found that some of the applications are not ready to be onboarded onto our platform.
And why is that? Why do you think that these companies are not ready?
We found out that some of the companies need further hand-holding guidance to develop their business plans and financials, and some need to have better risk mitigations in place. So because of this, we are working with a few local enterprises and government agencies who can provide business support and advisory services to these companies. As an alternative financier, we at EthisX, we want to address the funding gap in Oman, but we want to do so that investors do not bear avoidable risk. However, we caution as well investors to exercise their own due diligence and make investment decisions accordingly.
So the biggest beneficiary of this crowdfunding platform is going to be the Omani SMEs. Now, how should these SMEs approach you, and what kind of projects are you looking to support?
Yes, indeed, we are looking to meaningfully contribute towards the growth of the SMEs industries in Muscat or in Sultan of Oman at large. So we are not restrictive in terms of the industries that we would love to crowdfund, but first of all, because we are Sharia compliant platform, we have to make sure that those businesses or companies are Sharia compliant in the first place. And second of all, consistent with the values of our brand, which is #CirculateGood, We want to promote industries which introduce positive changes to the society and have impact on the community. So areas, for example, like agriculture, recycling, and businesses which are in line with ESG principles and Islamic principles to preserve the environment and doing good to the community, we will give priority on those companies.
Okay. I wanted to ask you as a follow-up question, which industry as of now has applied the most on your crowdfunding platform?
We receive applications from the medical industries, agriculture as well came into picture, and uniquely for Oman, certain traditional local handicrafts which would like to promote tourism in the Sultanate of Oman, as well as promoting handcrafts that originate from Oman.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
So you say you work with a lot of institutions and ministries. Do you think, since crowdfunding is relatively new to Oman, and there's a risk factor for all of these organizations, do you think they've been supportive in your crowdfunding endeavors?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of them that we have approached have been very supportive and very open to the idea to working with a crowdfunding platform like EthisX, where I think this is where they can they can benefit as well with what we are offering, because like for example, some government authorities are developing like accelerator or incubator programs, and they can feed the deal flow or the issuers to us, and at the end of the day we will be able to crowdfund for these companies on their programs. So those initiatives are ongoing. We are in discussions, and we have received absolutely tremendous support from each of the government authorities who we are in contact with.
That's lovely to hear. I'm glad that you're getting all the positive support from your organizations that you're dealing with. Now, Ms. Reza, before we wrap things up, is there anything you would like to add about your crowdfunding?
Yes, we invite and welcome companies from startups into SMEs as well as large corporations to come and approach us. We can have an open discussions. We can assist you with your funding requirements. If the requirements are not met, probably we can assist and tell you how you can meet those requirements, because at the end of the day we have the requirements from the authority that we have to comply with, and we have our own internal requirements on due diligence to make sure that the fundraising is successful. So it is more befitting and of benefit to both parties that any fundraising that we do on our platform is successful, and that's why we are open to providing as much assistance as possible, and going through the entire process rigorously and with due process.
Thank you so much for being here, Ms. Reza. It was wonderful to have this chat with you.
Thank you so much.
Now, that's all you need to know about crowdfunding. This is from Ms. Riza, who is the COO and Compliance Director of EthisX. That's all for this morning show. Follow the Arabian Stories for the latest updates.